Hi, virtual mermaids. It's Emily Wand, and thanks for coming to my page. So today I am going to do a little bit of a chit chat, just for a moment or two, and then we're going to talk about The Handmaid's Tale. So there's a couple things coming up. I'm going to be doing a weekly yoga class, and I'm trying to figure out what is the best day to do the yoga class. I'm not sure if I should do it. Well, I'm thinking Wednesdays, but I'm just trying to figure out what the SL time will be. So once I determine what the class will be, then the time, then I'll do a posting and let you guys know. The other thing is that kind of funny in a way, but I hid my channel for like a day or two, like 48 hours to kind of clear my head. And what happened was when I came back, and it's kind of a weird thing because YouTube does not tell you that this would happen, but when I came back, when I unhid my channel, and I just did it because I just needed to kind of have some space from the channel and everything. And so when I unhid it, all of my subscribers disappeared. So now it says that I don't have any subscribers. I've been reading and they're saying that, it could possibly come back. I don't know. So if you are a, regular watcher, just double check to see if you're subscribed to the channel. But it's kind of funny how it was something that was on my head and the universe just kind of figured it out. So now I'm just, starting from zero. But normally something like this would really like stress me out, but for some reason it's kind of freeing in a way. I don't know how to explain it. So that's the second tidbit. The third thing is that I started a restaurant in Second Life. It's not like a big restaurant. It's like a really small, little cute little place. And I've been doing, role play, like waitressing in there. And I was gonna set up a time where I would be there on a weekly basis so you guys could come and have some dinner, and then I would wait tables on with you. Well, I would be your waitress, and then eventually invite others to participate in being a waitress as well. I'm not sure when I want to release that, but that is going to be coming soon. The restaurant's already been made, and I'll probably do a video touring and then set up a time. I think maybe like an evening where I'm just there for a couple hours and you guys can come. It even has a bar too, which is really cute. So I thought that would be fun. So so I'm gonna be, I am still actively working in Second Life, if you can believe it. And then The Sims, I still play with The Sims, but not as much. I'm really full-time back in Second Life. And then also I'm doing a lot of the Sansar. So I've just been exploring there and just kind of seeing what that whole thing is about. It's really interesting. It's very interesting. It's very beautiful. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do a video on that one or not. So thank you for giving me a moment just to kind of update you guys on what's going on. And let's begin episode 8, and it's called Unfit. So this episode was it was kind of very eye-opening for me. It's almost like the mask of June, of who she truly is, has fallen, and we get to see who she really is as a person. It was very, very difficult to watch. I think up until this point, I have been a very, very big supporter of June. She does annoy me sometimes with some of her behaviors. There does seem to be a lot of selfishness with her, but ultimately she is in captivity, and that screws with the mind, screws with the spirit. So I have given her a lot of leeway in regards to sort of the manipulative behaviors. So I've kind of pinned it as a point of survival. But this episode was really hard to watch because she, make a long story short, she's a bully. She tortures of Matthew to her demise. And at any point, June could have stopped. June could have sent out the orders to stop, but she didn't. So we're going into kind of the first part of the episode where, June does not know where, little Hannah is. Hannah has been sent away. We don't know if Hannah is with the Mackenzies. June has asked Commander Lawrence where Hannah is. He says he doesn't know. And it's we begin with it's Commander Lawrence. He's telling June that he doesn't know where the Mackenzies or Hannah is, and he says, don't ask me. And I actually believe that. I actually don't think he does know where they are. And there's also a question of, is Hannah still with the Mackenzies? Did they put Hannah in a different home? And Offrende, I believe her name is Offrende, she's giving birth. And the handmaidens are all, accompanying her during her birth. And they're doing, their prayers and whatnot. And then while this whole process is happening, you're seeing ofMatthew get bullied. You're seeing her get pushed around. One of the girls even spits in one of her water. And you can see that she's very scared and she's very mousy. And June seems to be enjoying this. She seems to be loving this. And it's a punishment. It's a punishment for her losing her daughter. And at first when I watched it, I was like, yeah, that's what you get. You've caused her to lose her daughter once again. But, in thinking about it, it's like June didn't have a plan. She had no plan to go to the house. I mean, she was going to go to the school, but there was no plan of how she was going to get Hannah out. And she did talk to that Martha, and it was, it was a very public, open place. It was not in secret. It was, and anybody could have went to Aunt Lydia and reported that, seeing that, it not just ofMatthew. So, and the other aspect with Janine, who's such a sweetheart, said was, it wasn't ofMatthew's fault. It was Aunt Lydia. Aunt Lydia told her to do this. And as this goes on, and you see ofMatthew kind of, she's trying to be nice to June, and June is being really cold towards her, and all of the girls are ganging up, and then Aunt Lydia, who sees this in action, tells June to back off. And June says, I have no idea what you're talking about, Aunt Lydia. And then proceeds to say how, what are you going to do? Are you going to take my eye out? Are you going to burn me? And then she says something along the lines of I hope they don't have to do another video of me talking about Nicole. And, she kind of walks away. And then it goes into the next scene where they have this testify, where they put June in the middle of a room, and all the handmaidens all around her, and they're pointing at her, calling her a sinner, and she has to testify her sins. And this goes on for a little bit, And then June turns around and, does this theatrical act of, pretending to cry and pretending to look concerned. And she essentially tells on ofMatthew about how she had thoughts of wanting to have an abortion. So ofMatthew gets put in the center of the room, and and she's like she's upset because at this point she's been, Little Miss Press, Little Miss Perfect, can't do anything wrong, and having her sins of these thoughts pointed at her. And then she's saying, I do want the baby. I did want the baby. It's just a girl. I just didn't want the girl to have to suffer that, it was different because of the girl. And then I think that's kind of where the switch went for me, was like, wow, this is getting to be a little bit like we should lay off her, June. She gets the point, so then we go into back into the birth of Afande, and she loses the little girl. She has the umbilical cord tied around her neck, and then June actually lifts up the blanket and shows the baby that has passed, and she talks about how, her feeling of relief that the little baby doesn't have to live in this environment. And I just, it's still a life, it's still a being, and it was hard to watch because it's like, yeah, she doesn't have to live in this environment, but she doesn't get to live. And it was just very sad, and everybody is mourning, and they're covering the handmaid, and they're covering the handmaid, and they're like consoling her, and they're doing this kind of movement or prayer, like the heartbeat like that the baby would have had. It was very, very sad and very touching at the same time. And I don't know, it was like weird. It was weird watching June talk about this relief that she had, but then when we had her in, the first 2 seasons, she was really, fighting for these babies to live, because it was like, well, they get to live, they might be able to change this environment. It was very just to see that shift was very interesting. So yeah, so the baby has been lost, and then it just goes into it goes into Aunt Lydia's story, and that was really interesting. What we learn about Aunt Lydia is that she has been the same person since the beginning, before Gilead. She has been a deeply religious, staunch woman, and she loves children. She lives to serve children. She just loves taking care of children, and you can see that. And before that, she was an elementary school teacher, and it looked to be like a religious type school. And then she talked about how she was a lawyer before, but made the switch to being a teacher. And there's a principal who's caught her fancy, and he seems to really like Aunt Lydia as well. And there's a little boy who Aunt Lydia is taking care of, and he, it's 6:30, and the mother hasn't come to pick up the little boy, and she's calling the mom on her cell phone, and she's not answering, and she talks to the principal about how the mother only packed the little boy a bag of chips, and then she just makes the decision that, I'm going to take that little boy home with me. I'm going to give him some chili that I made. I'm going to feed him. And she calls the mom and just says, I'm taking him home with me, and I'm going to feed him, and I'm going to text you my address. So the principal is, pretty much giving Aunt Lydia compliments about how devoted she is, and what a nice person she is. And the mom comes in and rushes, and she like, finally, the boy's mom comes in and she rushes in and hugs him and is like, I'm so sorry, because she's a waitress, and she's, it does seem to be like this is a regular thing. Like, she usually is late. And Aunt Lydia invites her to her house for dinner, for chili. And I thought this was kind of funny because the mom was going to bring the little boy to McDonald's. And he was like, McDonald's again? And I was like, kind of looking at that, like, I know for me, when I was a kid, I would have preferred McDonald's over chili any day of the week. Not now, I would prefer chili, but McDonald's, like a Happy Meal with a toy and French fries and some burgers and a soda, like, I would have probably looked at the teacher and said, hey, chili sounds great, but I'm gonna do McDonald's today. Maybe we can do it another day. But he was just like, McDonald's again. And then they like agreed to do, teacher's chili, which I just thought that was funny. I don't know how well thought out that was. But, or maybe that's just, it's been so far removed from being a kid. I don't know. I just found that found that a little funny. So they go to the house, they're having chili. And then the mother talks about how this guy tried to grab her and she threw Long Island iced tea on him, and the reason why she was late is because she's her boss like chewed her out for throwing the Long Island iced tea on a customer. And she's talking about how all of these these guys are like after her and all this stuff. It's very apparent that the mom, she's very young. And it does look like she needs to become better at being there for her child, that she needs to get her priorities different. And Aunt Lydia even seems to be trying to help her in a way. Like, she's talking to her about like, maybe you want to do a different career so you don't have to focus on that. So you can focus on your son, that you can be a better person. And it goes into, kind of fast forwarding. It goes into, Christmas time, and Aunt Lydia's giving the mom and the little boy are invited for Christmas, and Aunt Lydia's giving them gifts, and she gives the little boy like a book, which is so Aunt Lydia. And the mom gives Aunt Lydia this makeup compartment for like eyeshadows and blush, and she is putting it on her, and she's very reluctant at first because she's a very deeply religious woman. It's not her style, so she's reluctant. And Aunt Lydia talks about how she was married before, but doesn't go into it. And there was another part of the episode where the woman talked about how she meets somebody. I believe it was at that same makeup scene, but while she's putting on the makeup, she's like, I met somebody, and it's a married guy, and you can tell on Aunt Lydia's face that really bothers her. And I feel like the marriage that she had before, he probably cheated on her, probably left her for somebody else. And this woman they kind of show her kind of as like a Jezebel, kind of having a Jezebel kind of spirit to her. She's like tempting Aunt Lydia with this makeup, and she's talking about how she's with this, he's married but he's gonna leave his wife, and she's like, okay dear. And then it goes into the next part where Aunt Lydia is at this like club, and it's a club like a burlesque, has like a darkness kind of feel to it. It's very like very exotic, and Aunt Lydia is dressed like she's going to the opera or the ballet. She looks very pretty, but she's sexy, but like very conservative still. Like, this is very much outside of the box, and she has a lot of sequins, a lot of glitter to her shawl. And the principal's there, and, you know, they strike up a conversation, and you can tell Aunt Lydia is just having the time of her life. And he's talking to her about, hey, maybe next year we can do Christmas together. And he talks about how his wife has died. He has, you know, a couple kids. They're grown up, but his wife has died, and they go on karaoke and they start singing together. And then he's invited back to Aunt Lydia's place, and she has, I'm guessing some sort of dessert liqueur that she has, and it's just a wonderful, like, ending to a beautiful night. And, you know, it looks like they're going to get physical, and she starts becoming very aggressive with him. And, you know, she's, you know, reaching and pulling, and he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, this is too much. This is too soon. And she like, you know, stands up and gets, you know, so ashamed. And she says, I'm so sorry. I don't know what got into me, and, you know, this won't happen again, and all this stuff. And then he's just like basically trying to tell Aunt Lydia, like, it's too soon. Like, I need some time. Like, I need some time to get to know you. Like, I need some time for us to be comfortable. He wasn't telling her that he wasn't interested. It was just too soon. And she just took it as an insult. But then she also has this, like, self-loathing for herself, like that, you know, she's become a Jezebel, like she's become a sinner. And then he leaves, and she goes into the mirror, and she starts crying, and she, like, looks at herself in the mirror and, like, hits the mirror, and the glass breaks, and you can just see, like, all of that work, you know, everything that everyone did to kind of break down those walls for Aunt Lydia. Those walls are back up. That fortress is strong. And, there's no return. And then it goes into the next part where Aunt Lydia is at the school talking to, it looks like a social worker or DSS kind of worker, and, you know, he's taking notes about child neglect and abuse, and she's talking about how the mother, you know, is late to pick up the child, how the child is not fed properly, how the mother, there's a lot of different guys, and a married guy, and they've already taken the child away from the mother, because they've pretty much labeled her as unfit, which is the episode Unfit. And what I found interesting about this part was how he said, you know, there's so many parents, there's so many families that are desperate to have a child. And the child is, I feel like he might be like 5 or 6 years old. And that was very interesting to me, because the child, he looked to be biracial, like he looked more Hispanic. I can't tell exactly what he was. But like now, you know, especially if you are a child of color in America, it's very hard to get a child adopted, especially, and I know this from personal experience, it's very hard to get those children adopted, especially if they're older, like 5 or 6 years old. They tend to live out their days in the foster care system or group home system. Very, very rare. I mean, it happens, but it's just, there's just not enough families adopting these children. And what I found interesting about it was now we go into this time where, you know, being fertile, having children are seen as rarities, as special, because there's so little of them, and that people, no matter what color you are, people are fighting to have these children, bring these children into my home so I can take care of them, because I can't have a child. So, you know, any sort of neglect, you know, whether it be you didn't pack their lunch properly. I mean, a bag of chips if you pack a bag of chips, that's not enough nutrition. But, you know, they're not going to do, from what I was watching, it was like, they're not going to send this mother to like a training or counseling, because that's probably really what she needed. She needed a career training, get herself in a career path, and then get herself in some parenting classes. And in a couple weeks, because she probably would have been fine, but she just needed a little bit of help in that direction. But now, because of the way the world is, in the world of, and it's going to become Gilead, it hasn't quite been there yet. It's like there's no leeway. It's like if you're not taking care of these children, we're going to take them away, because there's just such a demand for them. And it shows this mother, she's coming into the school, Aunt Lydia's there, and she's like, they have to essentially fight this mom from getting to Aunt Lydia. And she's like, why did you do this? Why did you have them take away my child? And she's like, the child comes first. His safety comes first. And I truly believe that. I truly believe when I was looking at this, it really gave me an understanding of who Aunt Lydia was. And for me, when I looked at it, it wasn't even so much when it wasn't so much that she was like, she had hatred or anything like that for the mother. It was just children and their safety come before anything else. And it was a really interesting, it was such an interesting episode. So that's pretty much kind of the end of this whole Aunt Lydia thing. I think that it just kind of reconfirmed that who she was then is who she is now. She has not changed. She's not changed her tune. And we go into the last part where they're at the grocery store, and Aunt Lydia comes to June and says, we've decided, because all through this episode Aunt Lydia's been having meetings, and she's been trying to, they have to position where they put the handmaids. So she's been having these meetings, and they've decided that June should not be in Commander Lawrence's house, that June should be removed, that Commander Lawrence is too lenient, and that he's, all of these things with Emily have happened, and that he's essentially a bad influence. And she's talking about this to June, and you can see on June's face that she's pissed, that she's like, what the hell, I don't want to leave. And throughout this episode, you can see ofMatthew, she's cracking. She comes in the store, and she's just like, you can see she's visually upset, she's visibly shaken, and being really mean to Janine. And Janine, who, bless her heart, is being so thoughtful and so kind, is trying to console her. And then as Aunt Lydia is talking to June, you can see her cracking. She has this can in her hand, she's shaking. Janine tries to reach out for her, and she beats her with the can. Just beats her viciously. And this whole time, June is smirking, and she's just looking at this and is enjoying this. And she there's this part where she kind of turns to the side, and she does this smile, this evil smile, and it's it's just so weird. It was so weird to see June like this. So she starts beating her, and then this one of the security officers goes in, and she she attacks him. This piece of glass goes in his neck, and she takes his gun, and she's looking around and looking at somebody to shoot, and you think she's going to shoot June, but then she turns the gun to Aunt Lydia, and Aunt Lydia is trying to stop her, trying to get her to calm down. And I think Aunt Lydia's, I think she cares about ofMatthew, but I think she cares more about the baby inside of her. So she, she points the gun at Aunt Lydia, and then it looks like she's about to shoot Aunt Lydia, but before she does that, she gets shot by a security officer, and it's like she spins around, she lands on the floor, and yeah, really, really sad stuff. And then they show her dragging her body out, but when she points the gun to Aunt Lydia, points it to June, June like nods, like, okay, you do this, almost like she's like a marionette, or she's a puppet, and she's just creating this whole thing. And it was very disturbing to watch. And it was, like I said, the mask for me came down, and I'm starting to think, is June better than all these other people, the commanders, Serena? Is she better than them? Is going down this rabbit hole of doing evil things and evil deeds, how can you say you're a heroine? How can you say you're a hero if you get down in the mud and you do the same sort of evil acts? And it was very, 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 very interesting to see. So we have like 5 episodes left. I think for me, I think that June should have gone in that car. I think she should have left. I mean, I understand that she went back for Hannah, but there was no plan. How are you going to get Hannah out of there? You left one daughter for another daughter, and now we don't even know if Hannah is with the Mackenzies, who do love her. And I just think she should have gotten that car and she should have left, and then we should have been left with the other handmaids who have really interesting stories, and we would have been able to see what their stories were like. I don't see what June is doing. I don't see how she's helping the resistance. She doesn't seem to be doing much of anything other than getting people killed. And it's disappointing to watch. Like, I'm just sort of like, I've kind of, at this point, I feel like I've had enough of June. Like, I want to see the other stories. I really want to see Emily's story. I find her character fascinating. And I do agree with Commander Lawrence. Like, she's really smart. She could really help the world. Like, I'm not saying the world, but she was a doctor before, and Commander Lawrence seemed to see a lot of like attributes of her being able to help others. But at this point, like, I'm just like, I don't see how June is helping this resistance. She seems to be putting more and more people in danger. Everyone's trying to help June. Everybody's trying to help June to, get out or get Hannah, and then they get hurt or killed in the process. And I'm just sort of like, why June? Why does everyone help June, but nobody helps these other women who are in just as of a desperate situation of June, if not worse, especially the ones in Washington. So yeah, that was the episode. I can't say I was, to be honest, I was glad it was over, because I just was really annoyed just watching it. I just felt like she could have just stopped and just sort of redeemed herself, and we would have just saw June in a better light. We would have seen her as the better person. And that's the whole thing. This is the whole thing about The Handmaid's Tale with June. It's like, she's supposed to be the better person, despite all of this evil, all of this terrible world that she lives in. It's like she's supposed to keep part of her soul. She's supposed to keep who she is, not lose herself in this, not become like one of them. And what we're seeing is that, in my opinion, she's becoming just like Serena. So there we go. That was my review of The Handmaid's Tale, Unfit, Season 3, Episode 8, and I will get back. I'm going to actually go back and do the other ones, my reviews of it, and I will be posting them up. I'll have a category playlist that says Handmaid's Tale, so you can click on that and you'll be able to see all the videos there. All right, my Virtual mermaids, thank you so much for listening to this review, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.